Welcome back to hour 7 of the Mini Moot for 2015. We're travelling to Sydney, Australia now to hear from Lindy Klein. For those of you who may not know Lindy, she has a wealth of experience both working for Pukunui but also in the uni and the health and the TAFE arenas. Today she's going to help us navigate CPD pathways. Over to you, Lindy.
Thank you very much, Maren. Hi folks, I hope you've had a lovely morning, evening, afternoon, whatever happens to fit your time zone. Being at iMoot this year, I've seen quite a few this morning that I was really impressed with, not as many as I would have liked. I've just dashed back from a presentation at my daughter's school to come and make a presentation of my own. So this presentation centers around a really simple and absolutely divine little plugin that I think is fantastic. So I'm really happy to be able to share it with you. It's one by David Mudrak, who is a programmer with Moodle HQ. His code is easy even for a noob like me. I really appreciate his work. Maren mentioned that I work with Pukunui technology, and we've had a couple of clients, especially recently, go, look, we're trying to track what our staff are doing for compliance training or for compliance purposes. We need to be able to see that they've done one of these courses every 12 months and one of those courses every 18 months and at least one of this course sometime over a 2-year period, and we can't see it. Now, of course, my first almost joking response is, have you got a student management system? Because really, a student management system is kind of what you would use to do that. If you're a larger scale organisation, or if you're working at a larger scale organisation, probably should step out of this session now, go and grab some caffeine or a rest, because this is for small to medium organisations. I suspect on a much larger scale, it will actually break things. Fairly warned, people. So when we said, tracking it is simple, just get, sorry, Jeff, dang. Just get a student management system. Well, it wasn't that simple. IT departments didn't really want another system. Finance departments didn't really want to pay for another system. And admin people didn't really want to learn a new system. So, okay, we're doing this all Moodle. Awesome. Let's make it work. The problem here with tracking CPD or internal staff training is it's really hard to spot what's going on across the whole of your site. It's easy enough to go into individual courses and see, yes, this person has passed this course. It's harder to see this person has passed this mandatory collection of courses. So we came up with a way of doing it. And of course, when I'm presented with a challenge and I can't see an easy solution in core Moodle, I go to everyone's favorite Moodle site, Moodle plugins, and start looking through all the different add-ons that you can get for Moodle to see if there's something we can flex to make a solution. And in this case, we found Subcourse. Now, I'm cheating. I was aware of Subcourse several years ago. We actually use it in, or initially used it in some of Pukunui's draft training. So I had already experimented with Subcourse way back in kind of 2012, 2013. When a recent client said, this is the challenge we've got, I went, I think Subcourse is the one that we need to use. When another client went, okay, great, we can track stuff. So that means I can track that they've done one course and then they can't access the other one until they've done it. So you can't do face painting 202 unless you've done face painting 101. Okay, another challenge. Let's see if we can make that one work. Has anyone else kind of tried to get to grips with this challenge already? So before I dive into the details of this solution, what have you already tried? And you can chime in either on your own microphone or over in chat, whichever works. Jeff, absolutely. Metacourse enrollment kind of, sort of, almost does it, but it doesn't get your grades all in one central place. Maren, I'd be interested to hear what you've found with your initial steps, but maybe it's a bit too early to kind of form any judgments on it yet. All right. If anyone else has any comments along those lines, please feel free to share them in chat. I'm happy to respond as we go. So obviously I can't share client sites for a really public presentation because there's all kinds of confidentiality issues with that. So Doctor Who needed some companion training, and I've done a mock-up based on that. Forgive me if it's a little bit cheesy, folks. So we've got 3 different categories: TARDIS training, enemy spotting, and the basics. And we also have, in the middle here, the Doctor Who training tracking area. Ah, awesome! I wasn't sure if I'd scored the first TARDIS or not. Thank you, Merrin. That's just made my day. The important thing to focus on here, though, is that we have one course that is a tracking area course. Now, I've opted for this one to make that tracking area course visible to students, but there are some scenarios where you may actually prefer to keep it hidden from them. Vinny, you're supposed to be here. So, important point, must have a tracking area course to make this solution work. My tracking area course has 2 topic sections at the moment. The first is a basic training section. The second is an enemy spotting section. I've used topic sections to break up where my courses, where my sub-course activities sit on the front page of my tracking course site. And that's partially so that I can see the training a little more easily broken down. I can see what I need to go and have a look at more readily. If you're running yearly or biannual training or even 6-monthly training, and you need to be able to see it from teaching period to teaching period, you could use the same kind of methodology, but instead of having just basic training, you might have basic training 2015, basic training 2016, basic training 2017, so that you can see them breaking down year by year. For those of you who are doing biannual type training, it would be enticing to put it as 2015, 2017, 2019. But one of my clients pointed out to me, well, we don't have staff that just neatly start every 2 years. So we are going to have to run this, an iteration of it every year, and then check, have they done it every 2 years? That's kind of a challenge. I've got some ideas on how that can be easier to see. Okay. So to get our subcourse plugin working, obviously we had to have an administrator install it. So if you don't know how to install a plugin, can I highly recommend go and look at the documents pages on Moodle.org, because they are really nice about stepping through how to do that. If you still can't make head nor tails of it, basically you're putting a small code folder into the larger Moodle code folder, and it's just about where you put it based on what sort of plugin it is. Subcourse is very easily an activity module plugin, so it goes into the mods folder of Moodle's overall core structure. And obviously I would recommend using Git for keeping all your plugins up to date, but if you're trying it out on a test site first, just manually copying the code in is fine. So we select our subcourse module and we're presented with the adding a new subcourse page. If you have lots and lots of courses on your site, and let's face it, who doesn't, you will find the drop-down area for the reference course. So I'll step through these settings a little bit better than I was about to. Subcourse name is the name that will appear on the front page of the course. I try and make sure that it's the same as the course that I'm referencing. So we have a tracking course and we have a child course that we're trying to track grades from. In the subcourse settings area, we give the subcourse activity name the child course's name, and then we link through fetch grades from drop-down menu to that child course. It will be listed. Every course that's available on the site is listed in this drop-down menu. That makes it a really big menu for bigger sites. So Jeff, you can kind of see why I'm suggesting for bigger organizations, you may need a better solution than this one. I also like checking the redirect to the reference course box because I like making the tracking course available to my students. That way I can actually use it to monitor how my students get access to the courses, and I'll show you that in just a moment. Right at the bottom here, we have the same common module and restrict access settings that you have available for every activity module in Moodle. So you can separate it out for groups, you can restrict access based on all kinds of different criteria. The subcourse plugin is really cool in that it works from Moodle version 2.4 up to 2.9 at the moment, and I know I've used it in earlier versions than 2.4 as well. So if you're stuck a version a bit too early, you may be able to find the older plugin code for it. Otherwise, 2.4 to 2.9 has versions available from Moodle.org's plugins area. Once you've added your subcourse activity in, it will show up like one of these. And I've done 3 different ones here. I actually want to separate out this tracking course for 2 different audiences. I've got companions who travel directly with the doctor. They need to get 100% because they're going to need to know everything about traveling with the doctor. Otherwise, they're going to be stuck somewhere along the line. Companion family members, however, just need to understand roughly what their family member has gotten themselves into, so they only need the basic courses. I'm not going to throw them into the spotting the monsters courses because it will freak them out. Similarly, if you're in a health organisation, you may need every staff member to have access to the basic hand washing course, basic forms and procedures courses. You may need your specialties to have access to their particular areas of expertise. In a more corporate organisation, you may need everyone to be aware of basic phone etiquette, how to apply for leave, how to fill in or access your pay slips, but only the sales division is going to need to know how to do up a quote for a consultation. So you can see the structure here fits across different purposes. It's just a matter of wrapping your head around what your specific purpose is and how do we bend the structure to fit that. How are we going, folks? Any comments or questions so far? I know I talk a million miles an hour, which is why I like to try and pause for everyone to at least take a breath. Sometimes it reminds me to take a breath. Only sometimes. Our companions need to access the Communication Strategies course, the Regeneration course, and the Daleks course. Our family members only need, at bare basic, to have the Communication Strategies course, but they can also do Regeneration 101 if they want. They do not need to do the Daleks course because we don't want them getting freaked out by that. So coming back to our tracking course, you can see communication strategies wide open and available for everyone to access. Immediately below that, we have Regeneration 101. It's not available unless they've passed the communication strategies course. Because if they're not getting the basics there, Regeneration 101 is really going to blow their little minds. So this isn't actually enrolling them into the courses, and it's an important distinction to make. This is just a gateway. They already have been enrolled into all the courses that they need to access. The key here is that once they've got 100% on communication strategies, Regeneration 101's description will display to them with the access code. So that when they click on the title for Regeneration 101 to go into the course, they'll be presented with, oops, my slides are out of order. How annoying. Apologies, folks. Oh, I've deleted a slide. How shocking. There we go. That will do. They'll be presented with the course release quiz. For those of you who've done your MCCC, especially if you've done it through HRD&Z, you'll find that this is the same kind of methodology. The topic and the content of the course is not available until they get a pass grade on that course release quiz, and the only thing they need to do in there is type in the access key into a short answer question. So that way, We know that they can only get the course access key from the front page of the tracking course. We know that to be able to access that, they have to get 100% on the communication course first. Yes, people could share the access codes. It's not actually that difficult to change them. So to pick up where we left off. The key part here is we want the communication strategies course to report its grade back to the tracking course. To do that, we have a look in at the tracking course's grades area. So I'm looking at the grader report for the tracking course, and you'll notice we've got a whole heap of Doctor Who companions and family members enrolled in the tracking course. And within the grader report, we've got a category area for basic training and a category area for spotting monsters, which is our Daleks course. Within basic training, we've got communication strategies and regeneration 101. The grading aggregation method I've used within the basic training category is lowest grade, and this is reflective of that CPD training. The basic training area, they have to get 100% in everything before they're allowed to pass all of basic training. So by categorizing them into these kind of divisions, I can look at the overall grade for the basic training total and see whether or not someone is compliant with all of the required training yet or not. If they're not compliant yet, I can chase up that particular person. This for me is one of the biggest win points with using subcourse in this manner, because prior to this you had to go into every other course, check the grade for each course to see if the student had actually passed all of them, unless you wanted to export those grades out and try and amalgamate them into one massive spreadsheet, which is effectively what we're doing here. But because we're letting Moodle do all the hard work of dragging the grades in and out, we only have to look in one place. So clicking on the title of the Communication Strategies course from Grader Report takes me out to this screen. I can click on the highlighted link here to go straight into the Communication Strategies course, or I can fetch the grades. Subcourse will do a fetch of all its child grades every time the cron script runs. I do need to double check this, but it's the best that I could interpret from the documentation when I was rereading it this morning. So this means a cron script on a Moodle site should run every 10 to 15 minutes. That means your grades information is likely to be up to date within 10 to 15 minutes. If you're doing the final processing of grades for an end of semester result, fetch the grades every time you double check them so that you've got the most current information. Oh, fantastic, Jeff. Is that 1 minute now for the cron script or 1 minute for subcourse pulling in its grades information? Jeff, I would be a little bit concerned about a cron script running every minute, especially on larger sites, because it can run into itself. It shouldn't. On smaller sites, it should only take maybe 10, 15 seconds to run, if that. On larger sites, it can take over a minute. But that's kind of a tangential discussion. Yeah, Maren, I know you've had a nasty experience with that. So that is kind of off at a tangent, but the important point to bring in now is focusing on getting the most accurate information in front of you when you're doing that final revision of the grades information here. Okay. Thanks, Vinny and Joshua. Appreciate the clarification there. Yeah, shouldn't. Words that worry programmers and site administrators. Shouldn't. I didn't. I wasn't. Very cool. That is actually really cool. Thank you, Joshua. Okay, so I've fetched the child grades from the Communication Strategies course back up into the grader report of the tracking course. You can see this is the Communication Strategies grader report. So I can see the grades for Francine, Martha, Amelia, Jackie, Rose and Rory. you'll notice Clara isn't here. Clara is always the girl who disappears at the last minute. They haven't all got 100%, but there's only one assignment in this course, so the grade for the assignment has transferred to being the grade for the course as a whole, and that's fine, that's what we want. Sucking those up into our tracking area, we can see the communication strategies subcourse activity has got the same grade as the course grade that we just saw. For the basic tracking total, we've got the minimum or lowest grade turned on, so because Francine has got 50%, she's tracking at 50 over here. Regeneration isn't done yet, so we haven't got a grade for them yet. Clara, because she hasn't done anything yet, is showing as a dash. This is also really helpful for trying to track who's actually gone in and done anything. If Clara had got even a fail grade on the communication course, it would show up here. So I've talked through the course access side of things. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. For those of you who haven't done topic section restrictions before, oh, Jeff, thank you for sharing the link. That's really cool. I love this about iMoot. I love that our community goes, oh, you know what? An extra idea that would help here is this. Thank you so much. For those of you who haven't done restricted access on topic sections before, it's really simple. And in 2.8 onwards, you've got extra conditions that you can play with. It's really cool. I'm a little bit bummed that I missed Miriam and her colleague's presentation before on doing funky things with negative access restrictions. I'm going to have to rewatch it later on. In this case, we're restricting a whole topic section based on the course release quiz being 100%. So they can't see anything in the course until they've already got 100% on that quiz, which means they've put in the access code correctly. Some pros and cons to think about with this method. I love that the grades from the child course can be brought straight across into the parent course, and it's just no mess, no fuss. I don't have to look anywhere else. I can go straight into the tracking course and it's there. I've got a con there of can't yet require completion of one course before starting another. I've put it in there because it's a hack that we're using quiz to achieve that. It's a hack that we're using restricted access to activities to achieve that. This isn't in the documentation for setting course completion reports. It does actually make the point. This is more a reporting service than actually forcing this course will be complete before you can access another course. But I think that's definitely a feature that Moodle would benefit from having in it, and something that we've seen a lot of requests around. I'd be interested to see if anyone here has tried to do something with that. I think for larger sites, fetching the grades information may slow your site down, and the larger the site, the more courses you have, the more students you have enrolled, the bigger that problem's going to be. For smaller sites, and the biggest one I've set up with this so far has about 250 students on it, and they're not reporting any issues with it so far. They're aware there could be, but they were happy to give this a go. It slows down slightly when fetch grades is run, but it's not a huge problem for them. They're finding it's easier to have the tracking space and deal with the slight slowdown than it is to try and round up that grades information manually. It is a work in progress though. So at this point, I love doing more engaged presentations where people get a chance to have a say, share ideas, and I did actually ask people to share ideas before the session in the feedback activity for this course. So this is a work in progress. I'm going to have a look at the feedback results while I'm presenting and see if we can have more of a conversation around this, because part of the point of this was to see, has anyone else tried this method or another method that is solely Moodle, and how are they finding it? This is a real challenge that we've had to deal with. I'd like to see how other people are going. Jeff's just put in there plus 500 courses with plus 10,000 users. No problem. Jeff, it's a matter of enrolling. If you're trying to track the progress of all 10,000 users, they're all going to be enrolled in the one course. I think you have other problems there. If you could break it down so that you had a tracking course for different collections of users, then yes, maybe it would work without a problem. But one course with 10,000 users in it without any kind of load balancing on your servers, that would be a problem. So Open University UK has over 10,000 users. In fact, I think they've got over 20,000 these days, but I haven't looked at their figures for a while. They run on Moodle. So Moodle can handle those kind of numbers. It's about making sure that your hardware with your servers is set up to balance for the different kind of loads that it's going to have. So I would suggest running this past your IT people, so your server administrators, your database administrators, talking to them about what kind of load is this going to put on our system? Is it feasible? Is it workable if we do it this way? Is there another way we could be doing it that would work better? And you've probably already had some of those conversations, Jeff. Oh, absolutely, Bruce. And I don't think it's off topic. I've touched on it in the presentation. I think that makes it totally on topic. So if I read your question correctly, can you source or restrict a sequence of topics in restricted access topic method you're referring to? If you wish to, if each of your topic sections had an assessment activity that had to be completed, you could restrict one topic section. So topic section 2 is restricted until you've passed the quiz in topic section 1. Topic section 3 is restricted until you've passed the quiz in topic section 2. Does that make sense? Fantastic. I suspected this might happen. I've had a look at the feedback activity and nobody has participated because you guys were all so busy being excited about all the other iMoot sessions that we're running today, which is fair enough. Basically, the feedback was asking, have you had to deal with this before? Are you trying to deal with it now? What do you find challenging about tracking training in your organisation? And how have you tried to address it? What sort of management systems have people got in place for this? So if we were tracking external students as an RTO, we would use a student management system for this, hands down. But when you're trying to track internal staff training, it becomes a little harder to kind of make the case, I suspect, for having that external student management system to do it. Does that resonate with anyone else's experience? Oh, I am so sorry, folks. I was talking away and had myself muted accidentally. This is what happens when you have the controls for mute on your headset and you bump it accidentally. Let's try this again. So, Jeff, I have some comments for you, but I will address Beth first. Beth, you are referencing the comment I made earlier, and I'm reading out the questions and comments from the chat because I've noticed on recordings with Big Blue Button that they don't record the chat stream, which is a real shame for people who are watching afterwards. So Beth has said that is definitely our case. We have a great student management system, but no way to manage courses for staff. I can definitely see this helping us streamline as we're currently looking up each individual. This is exactly why I think this method is a good workaround for people in that kind of situation, Beth. I'm cautious about how do we set this up so that we can see the timing for everything. Obviously, the overall course grade for the tracking course isn't going to be particularly useful, that it's irrelevant data, but the grades for each course category, so mandatory training 2015, that's going to be important because you're going to want to see that everyone's compliant with their mandatory training for this year or this period. Okay, so Jeff has said, have you found a way to restrict access to a course activity of another course? Only show if the student is enrolled in the other course. Jeff, I think meta-course enrollment may offer you a hacky kind of solution for that. It's inelegant, but it may work. If you have a student enrolled in course A and meta enrolled in course B, then within course B, they should be able to see an activity because they are enrolled in course A. They can only get to the activities in course B through being enrolled in course A. I hope that makes sense. Jeff's also added, main request I get currently is managers wanting to know the progress of his employees. I can see subcourse working great for this. I think so, yes. I think part of our problem arises here from trying to use Moodle to do more than it may be meant to do, and trying to reduce the number of systems we have to have in place to do all the things we want to do. I think subcourse would work really well for that purpose, Jeff. Merrin, we have many people with many assessments and we like to use the progress bar. So do I. Unfortunately, if you put a progress bar onto tracking course, it can't cope with tracking the sub-areas within the sub-courses. Yeah, sorry about that. At the Australian iMoot, I spoke with the two guys, David and Michael, involved, but it doesn't look like this will be arriving in the short term. Oh, poo. That's a shame, Merrin. Bruce has said, if you have a CPD course using subcourse method, can you apply a reminder email automatically from Moodle to finish by a certain time? See, this is what I would classify a feature request, Bruce. It's right up there with Merrin's desire to use the progress bar. We've actually had quite a few people in the last couple of weeks asking, how can we make Moodle send out automatic email reminders? You know, you haven't been in the course for a couple of weeks. Here's just a friendly touch to let you know the course is still running and we'd love to see you there. For this kind of compliance tracking, absolutely, it would be invaluable. I can't see a way of doing this that ties in with people can start anytime. If you can set a date that people have to start on, then you can use timed forum posts and forum subscription to achieve that kind of automatic notification for people to a certain extent. But when you've got rolling enrolments, and you do when you're working with staff trying to do compliancy training, I'm a staff member who started in August. I don't know that I'm supposed to have done the course that started in June and now I can log in and do it anytime I want. Bruce, I don't know if you could use a custom cron to do this or not. Who do we have in the room here who might know that? I'm just kind of scrolling through our participants list. Vinny, if you're around, or Bevan, maybe. If you're around and you have any ideas, please jump in and share them. And Vinny already has. It's a great fix subcourse to the problem of collating grades across various courses. However, my personal opinion is that this feature should be core. Teachers should have a nice dashboard to see all their students' grades with filters, grades from other courses, etc. Same for managers, pastoral leaders, and so on. I could not agree more. Absolutely. Merrin has said you can use the events, see Vinny's previous presentation to flag those users. I will definitely have to watch Vinny's presentation, and I must apologise. I was away for a school event for my daughter and couldn't get to Vinny's session, but that would be awesome. Watch it on recording, people. Merrin is suggesting there may be answers there, and I will be hunting for them later. The new events flagging is really cool in Moodle 2.9. I certainly want to play with that a little bit more. I think it would be lovely to have a dashboard that makes this information more readily available, and I think perhaps we're seeing through these needs being voiced a request for more maturity from Moodle in terms of what it can do as a piece of software. We're looking for it to do more than it was originally intended to do. When it started out, this was just a great space that we could have activities. It was an online classroom, and if we think about real life classrooms, whether they're school classrooms or university lecture halls or university tutorial rooms or TAFE and VET training rooms, they're the space that the activity happens. They're not the space that we use to keep the records in. And we're trying to use Moodle, the space that was built for the activities to happen, to keep a track of the records, because it looks like we can, because it's online and it's a computerized system, and why can't we? And I think that's an excellent question. Why shouldn't we be able to have a go at this and make it work the way we want it? Subcourse is an awesome step in that direction. So Merrin, one of our clients has actually got this kind of challenge. Merrin's asked, so has anybody cracked the tracking? I have 3 years to do X, Y, Z, and everybody's starting on different days and therefore have different expiration dates. Jeff has asked, is subcourses cron found in scheduled tasks GUI in Moodle? I don't know off the top of my head, Jeff. I would recommend you to the documentation for an accurate answer, because the best I could do is a guess. And I don't think it is, but that's only my best guess. Coming back to Merrin's question, I have 3 years to do X, Y, Z. Tracking periods are really challenging. The closest I've seen to a solution for this is a really, I think it's a little heavy lifting, but certainly it was effective for these guys. A use of groups and groupings, and basically creating a group, and allowing that group access to things for specific periods. I think on a longer term basis, that will be a really unwieldy system to try and make work. What I would love to see, and what I suggested at Moodle Moot AU this year, because this is coming back to the challenge of dealing with rolling enrolments. What I suggested at Moodle Moot this year was, why can't we say this is the student's enrolment date, they have 3 months or 2 years or however long to do all of these different things within it, and flag based on the date that they were first added to the course. I'm not sure, maybe Vinny's presentation has got some more on that, given there's an event there that we could tie to. Certainly cracking that challenge would bring a lot of joy to a lot of people. How many of you have tried installing plugins for solving this kind of challenge before? It's always hard not to see the body language in a webinar. I'm not sure if you guys are snoozing off or actually rapidly going over and looking at the subcourse documentation, which you totally should be doing. Thank you, Joyce. Absolutely, but this is why I miss the body language of face-to-face presenting on occasion. Bruce has asked, any comments on how to keep subcourse plugin working as new versions of Moodle occur, which is a really good question, and one that should be asked of every plugin that you add to your site. Bruce, I kind of take some comfort in the fact that subcourse is maintained by David Mundrak, and he's one of Moodle's HQ developers. There is a version of subcourse for every version of Moodle from 2.4 to 2.9. He is really good with updates. He is really good with responding to comments or queries. I know that's not an ironclad guarantee, but it's about as close as you're going to get with plugin development. The other way you can tackle this, and this is more for plugins broadly, if you're going to install add-on code to your Moodle site, then you're installing the requirement to keep that working from version to version with Moodle, which means you may want to set aside some rainy day budget for we've upgraded and that plugin broke and everything we do is hinged on that plugin. It's either money for paying a developer to look at it and fix it and make it do what you want, or money to contribute back to the Moodle programmers who are working on that plugin and ask them if they can make it work, which in turn benefits everyone else who's trying to make it work on your latest version of Moodle. Maren has said they're pretty good with updates. David normally releases it pretty quickly. Jeff has commented, would love a subcourse tool that loads the completion tracking as well as other courses. Can you maybe elaborate on that a bit, Jeff? So it looks like you're trying to see, have they done all the activities as well as, okay. So you're trying to see the completion tracking reports from each of those courses within the one tracking course. Is that accurate? Yes, okay. That would be one massive completion tracking report. But yes, that would be really cool. I think maybe that's a feature request to send along to David. David's going to love me so much for doing this. Cron job plus 5 hours to complete. Ouch. Sorry, that's a comment from Jeff. So folks, we're sitting here at 20 to 3 my time. I'm not sure entirely what time zone everyone else is in. In fact, I'm kind of curious. I can glance at the list and go, I know we've got people from at least 3 different time zones sitting in there, which is really cool. Thank you very much for joining in. But it is kind of time to wrap this session up. So, Beth, bless you for joining us that late on a Thursday. And Elma, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Lindy. You've really inspired us to look at these subcourses, and I'm sure you've given quite a few people some homework, but also some possible solutions. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Maren. The one last thing I want to mention to everyone is remember that the iMoot quiz is running. You have a question for this hour. I'm not sure what it is because I haven't seen it. But if you want to collect lovely shiny badges towards the end of iMoot, you'll need to go and answer that question sometime in the next 15 minutes. Thank you very much for all your feedback and for joining me here today, and see you at the next one.
Bye.